Joél Leon, my friend. Welcome back to the Let's Give a Damn podcast.
Hey, finally, man.
I know. I really, let me just say this. If you and I could figure out some sort of a vibe, some sort of a rhythm where we're talking on the mic together, like on a weekly basis, I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I love
yeah.
talking to you.
Same,
It
bro.
seems like, yeah, I was gonna say, it seems like you don't hate talking to me. And I feel like we could attempt to at solving a couple of things if we just like kept the rhythm of talking going, you know?
I do not disagree with that. I need you to stop arguing with trolls. I told you this already.
With trolls, yes.
That's the only thing I need from you, man.
Thank you for
That's it.
that rebuke, friends. Joel and I are we're both very strong online with what we believe and what we want to say.
Yeah,
And sometimes,
yeah.
most of the time, I will tell you this, that most of the time I can just
I
ignore
know.
them. Like it's
I know.
why am I going to even interact with you,
Yeah.
you moron? But then every once in a while somebody will say something where it's just like, "Oh my god, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know you said the thing that you
Yeah.
needed to say to
Yeah.
get me to go, but you said it or you wrote it
You
rather,
did
you
it.
typed it out and here we go." And I love how you just texted me the other day. And I was at first I was like, "Wait, how did he know?" And it was like, "Well, you were tagged in that. That was a
Yeah,
post that
man.
you were
So I get.
tagged in."
Yeah, yeah. Anytime you're engaging with the person, I'm just like, "Ah," and I saw the comment, and I'm like,
It's so pointless, right? It's so
yeah,
pointless to interact with these just
yeah,
absolute morons
mm,
because nothing that you say, nothing that we say is going to
no,
move them. They are on there to pick fights.
yeah, man. And like my job is to remind us outside of just like the liberation work, and like I mean, I think everything is liberation work, but it's like a person such as yourself who's really devoting so much time and energy to a noteworthy cause, to noteworthy causes, and is so passionate about these causes. This man, like every drop of energy is important, and like because like that energy that we waste on squabbling with some no named um penis munching douchebag is energy that doesn't that you don't get to give to the community or to the kids, or like, because then we get riled up because I'll be seeing like I'll read a thing and be like, it'll be like the personal comments when someone like leaves like a comment under something I posted, and it's like, you don't know what you're talking about, blah 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 blah. I only have 2 followers, but guess what? You don't know anything. And it's like, granted, follower count does not distinguish anyone's level of intelligence and knowing, but it's normally the person who just is
Right.
not doing any sort of work whatsoever that is commenting on how you should be doing work. And it's like, man, if you don't get your rid of me this ass out of my comments, man, so I can, you know, and
Well,
like I'll type a thing out.
yeah.
That's the thing
I do genuinely appreciate you calling me out on it because I need to. You're right that like, I feel in my brain I'm 25, but I just turned 40. And
uh,
again,
okay.
I got 50, 60 years left to this, man. Like I'm going to go
Yeah,
until there's no
yeah,
more
that's what
going.
I'm talking about.
But
That's what I'm talking about.
but like my
Yeah,
at 40, like I've seen
yeah,
40 trips around the sun. Like there's
yeah.
still a lot going on in my body. I have 40 years
Hmm.
of trauma, 40 years of seeing, shitty politicians in the world and this and
Yeah,
that and the good and the bad.
yeah,
And like,
yeah.
being a part of a evangelical cult for so many years and an
Mm,
abusive
yeah,
dad and all that stuff. So that's all
yeah,
like, and it keeps building up year after year as I get
yeah, bro.
older.
Yeah.
And so things that might not have affected me or things that might not have weighed on me
Hmm.
years ago,
Yeah,
like it's all, as you pointed out, every single second that I'm giving to these assholes is a second that I'm not giving to
yeah.
my neighbors, to my community, to Palestine, to Congo, to Sudan,
Right.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
then all these places, to my friends in Georgia and Eastern Europe that are now,
Mm,
they're fighting against, you know, Russian, influence in that is still has their claws in
yeah,
their politics. And
yeah, yeah.
like it's a moment that I'm giving again to somebody who I will never meet. I don't care about
No,
them.
no, yeah,
Like I will
yeah,
why? So
yeah.
I do appreciate it. I really do.
You know what's been
Um
helping me as of late though too, really quickly about that. Like, I'll like sometimes I've done in voice notes. Like I'll be like so mad about something. It might not even be at the person, but like I'll record the voice note. By the time I'm finished, I'm like, oh, I don't even think I need to send this. Like the comment is the same thing for me sometimes. It's like I just type out like whatever, whatever, like the most vilest, cruelest thing that I can think of that is so just like apparently just disastrous and foul mouthed. And then I just delete it, like because it's like it's the part of it is it's the purge. It's like to see your point, I think this is so much connected to the practice of liberation. It's like we do things sometimes, and I beg of us, and I want us to think about what is the impact of the thing that we're doing, and is the thing going to move the needle in the ways that we need it to, based on empirical evidence, based on the context of the situation, and also too, what are we trying to get out of this? Like, is this the thing that is going to create the change that we're looking for, that we're seeking? And if it's not doing it, man, I don't want to waste my time on it, because it becomes a bit more self-serving than it needs to be in order to move us forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for teaching me that little bit right there.
Oh
I
man,
mean, you can.
oh
I mean,
man,
you are. I want you to know that I know that we're peers and we're colleagues and
we
we're
are,
sort of
we
brothers.
are.
But you are a teacher in my life in a lot of ways. So I really appreciate these little
Same.
bits of wisdom that we're going to get throughout this entire conversation. So really grateful for that. We jumped right in the deep end. Obviously, that's par for the course. That is very, per usual. It's just like let's just go. You and I saw each other in the lobby of your work the other day, and like right away, it was like 2 seconds later, we were just like in it. So I think that's just what's going to happen
Of
with us,
course.
with those of us that give a damn. So
Mm,
glad you're
mm.
here. We're gonna spend the next 45, 50 minutes together. We've got a lot to discuss. One of the reasons that we're getting together on this occasion is because you have a book coming out.
I
This
do have a
this
book.
conversation will actually come out less than 24 hours after we record it. So tomorrow this will be out,
Man,
and it'll be what, 10 not even 10 days until release day for this
man,
beautiful.
bro, it's funny you just put the math on it, and I haven't really been doing the math on it. That
It's
is,
almost here.
bro, that's a little overwhelming. Now that you said it like that, I gotta go. I got.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about
Yeah.
this. I've been like, it's a couple of weeks from now. That's not a long time at all, man. It's not a long time at all, and it's gonna go by so fast. So I'm just trying to hunker down, bro, and just be
How are
present
you
for
yeah,
it.
how are you feeling? I mean, you're about to put something out, that the unique thing about books is they don't go away, you know? Like, we can record this
Yeah,
conversation, and I can even put out in the world, and then I can, like, regret for whatever reason and, like, delete it, right? And a few people might
yeah,
see it, but then it's, like, gone.
yeah,
Like, the
yeah,
books are permanent, man. And
yeah,
so
man.
how are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
feeling, 10, 12, 13 days out? How are you feeling about this journey that I imagine has probably worn you the fuck out,
Bro, like,
trying to get these words and these ideas and this wisdom out in the world?
I was texting my dear friend Ashley Simpo. Um, and because like I'll get the question sometimes, Nick, of like, how are you doing it? Because folks who know, like, like I have my full-time day job that is pretty demanding. I have to be very present for that. I'm also a parent to two little beautiful black girls. I'm a partner. I'm a writer and storyteller, and like even with the book, there's a soundtrack that I created and recorded here and at home, mixed and mastered myself, at the crib, and the audiobook recording, and of course the writing of the book. And I'm like, I just I things fall through the wayside. So like I'll be forgetting people's names, you know, or like I'll miss stops on the train because I'm just sleepy. I'm just falling asleep. I'll take those. Like that to me is not the worst thing in the world. But then also too, like sometimes I'll miss a birthday because it's like there's just so much in my brain that other things kind of, what I'm saying. Um, but I mean, outside of the marbles falling out of my noggin, I'm excited, man. I'm so honestly, man, I'm really excited for people to hear the book. Like I think the audiobook is just an exceptional piece of work. I'm really hoping people take a chance on listening to the soundtrack. We're gonna press vinyls for it. There's gonna be we're working on a
Amazing.
merchandise collaboration with Philadelphia Printworks. So there's gonna be hat, tote bag, long sleeve t-shirt, maybe some other goodies along the way as well. And so like I wanted this to feel like an album rollout because the book is very much set up like a journey of rhythm, and sound and sight. And I'm excited for people to have the book in their hands. I'm excited to go on tour with the book and really be in community, see people I haven't seen in years, you know. Um, and then there's a little bit of fear, like when I write, man, I write. I don't really think about. I think about. I don't think about impact through the lens of like how will people receive it. More about I hope people receive it in the sense of like I hope people just get it. Like I hope people buy the book. And then I didn't, I wasn't thinking about though, like, oh, this book is incredibly personal. This book is very much a memoir, and also too, it's a lot of it is cultural critique, and so I'm also opening myself up to critique in that way, in a way that is very different than me putting out a musical project because no one really gives a fuck when I put out a musical project except for the people who know that I make music, right? And so this book is very much there's that fear. I go to record the audio book, and the engineer Oliver, dope dude, it's our first time meeting, and he's like, "Yo, I feel like I know you already," and I have to remember that like I've put memories into this book, which is
Yes.
also the point, right? Like when we talk about this is gonna last forever, when my mom transitions, this book will be here. When I transitioned, when like I wanted to keep an archive of sorts. So like the intention was for this to last forever, which is why I wrote a book, in that way. Because like even to your point, if people decide, we're not doing like I'm pressing vinyls for the soundtrack, but like if people decide that they don't want their music on Spotify anymore, you pull it down. You know what I'm saying? Like we've kind of people still make CDs, but if you're an independent artist, so much of that is under your control and discretion. Like, this is a major published book that's coming out. Like Target, Barnes and Noble, any bookstore in Brooklyn, you know what I'm saying? Amazon, please don't buy it from there, even though that does help the bestsellers list. Just this is that weird
Yep.
paradigm that's
Yep.
happening. So like, much rather people buy from Barnes and Noble if they're going to like try to support in that way. Bookshop, of course, first and foremost. But it's this idea that, bro, like it's out there, and people are gonna know about what happened to me when I was in high school or my relationship with my father in a way that I think I've been trying to frame the language, not like puts me at a disadvantage because I'm so used to like coming into spaces neutral, where it's like you know a little bit about me, I know a little bit about you, and then we're building together. Maybe especially like an example would be you and I. We follow each other on social, so there's bits and pieces you can gather from a person as opposed to like, nah, bro, I know what it was. I know what your bedroom looked like because you're describing it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like,
Right.
and so people who I don't know who are gonna come up to me and be like, or might not because whatever. But hey, Joel, yeah, man, listen, I understand exactly what you're going through. I'm like, what? What are you actually talking about? Because I don't. You know what I'm saying? It's this very uncanny thing that I'm just not used to, and I'm like, it gives me a little bit of a sense of how I imagine celebrities feel, and not making any excuses for celebrities, but
Right.
I
Right.
can I can imagine how rattling it is to have people feel like they know you, right, and know so much about you. Um, like they know your tour dates, they know where you go, where your favorite restaurants, they know all these things about you, and it's wild to have to process that.
How did you decide? Okay, so what you just described is really helped me as someone who has been approached multiple times by publishers and by agents
Hmm.
to like write a book. And it
Yeah,
scares the hell out of me. And I have not done it yet
yeah,
because of the permanence of it. And
yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
still at 40, I still feel like I'm just beginning to
Mm,
figure. I mean, I'm barely
mm,
scratching the surface of figuring life out. But what you just
yeah,
described gave
yeah.
me a lot of encouragement because it's like there are certain things that can be permanent, should be permanent, and we should,
Hmm.
put out there
Yeah,
as
yeah,
as a way of
yeah.
saying, you know what, 5 years from now, I might not even agree with some of the ideas that I'm putting forth in this book. I might have to put out another book to fix this book, right? Or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So how did you decide? These are incredible essays. I haven't read the whole thing yet. I'm working through it. So far it's just it's touching my soul, my heart, all the parts.
Yeah.
Um, how did you decide what parts of you and what parts of your brain and heart you were going to put in a sort of this permanent state, this tome that isn't it's not going away, right? And
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
for that. This thing is fucking cool so far. But like, yeah, how did you? What was that process for anybody out there that's like writing and thinking about this and also gives a damn? Like, how did you process through that?
It's a honed sensibility. I've been writing for a really long time. From 41 now, I've been writing, like in writing with the intention for it to be read, right? Not for like homework sake, but like I'm writing this thing and I'm gonna give it to somebody, or I'm writing this thing, I hope they like it because I'm just trying different things out. Like probably since I was like 6 or 7,
Wow,
like just writing poems. Because I was, like we're all kids. Like I look at Lila now, my 8-year-old, man. She's fucking, she's just phenomenal. I mean, both of my girls are, man. But like, she's writing like stories in her notes app and fucking comic books. Like right now, she's working on this ghost story in her notes, and
that's awesome.
I mean, maybe that some of that is inherited through me. I don't know, but I do know that um, I was doing the same thing. So it's very interesting to watch her do that, and makes me very curious. Also, she's just talented in a lot of different things that I'm not. Um, and so I say all that to say, like, there's a cultivated practice. It's a thing that I've been working on steadily and consistently. There's never been a time where I haven't been writing. If I wasn't writing a poem, I was writing a song. If I wasn't writing a song, I was writing a spoken word piece. If I wasn't doing that, I was trying to write a play. If I wasn't writing a play, I was writing an essay. If it wasn't an essay, it was just thoughts. It was things. It was like I was always writing something, and I've always been writing something. And so when to answer to I lay that down as the foundation for the answer to the question, because then what happens is you get to trust your sensibilities, right? Like I know when an idea is good because it's my idea. And I've had a lot of ideas and I've known when those ideas are not good because
Mm,
I'm the vetter of all things that are ideas that surround my work. And some things people might gravitate more than others. Like somebody might be like, "Yo, bro, like that thing that you think is a throwaway, I think is hot." I'm gonna be like, "But you don't." There's a
yep,
thing that I'm trying to emit, and I'm aware of the impact I'm trying to make. Whether people receive it in that way is different. But a good example of that is the a sound the sound a slap makes, which is my Chris Rock and Will Smith essay. And that essay was very much inspired by Wesley Morris. Wesley Morris, who works at the New York Times as essentially the culture editor at large, phenomenal human and black man, and he was invited to the T Brand studio to talk with our VP at the time. Vita's now our SVP, um, Vita Cornelius, about just his work, his practice, his journey. And someone, I think I can't remember, one of my colleagues had asked him about the slap specifically, and I can't remember in what context, but there was something she had said and his response to it that gave me the title. The title of the essay came, and granted, this conversation happened, I want to say, a year after the Grammys incident. It wasn't like I
mm,
wrote it. I wasn't writing the essay after. I wasn't that person. I missed the event. I was asleep. I woke up the next morning and it was all over Twitter. And I've always been a writer. Well, not always, but I think there was a point in time where I was just writing about everything that I saw that was happening, especially through the lens and experience of blackness, especially after Ferguson. And it got to a point where I was like, yo, what are we doing? I think and this goes back to our earlier conversation, bro, about intention and being aware. So, like, it got to the point where I'm like, we're all writing about the same stuff at this point in different ways. But who are we writing to and who are we writing for and what are we writing for? Like we know the violence is real. We know that the oppression is real. We know the racism is real. Who is reading this? And like I think that's the thing I want to keep reminding us of. It's like even on Instagram, I'm like I have to be really mindful. It's not like I've stopped posting as much. I mean, I have, but I'm also like I need to be really strategic about the things that I'm sharing and saying and what are those things actually intended to do. Because if it's just me putting together clever words to talk about genocide, I don't think that's it. Like I've done like there was a point in time where like people just were not aware of the historical context of what was happening in
right,
Gaza and Palestine. You have all the information. So me putting together a couple of words, like, some of that is helpful because it is reminders. Sometimes people get lazy, we get lazy, but It's like I don't want to just be putting out words just because it feels like the thing to do because I need to put out words because it satisfies my or quells my anger, you know? So all that to say, it's like I've gotten to the point, man, where it's like, yo, that essay, I wrote that essay because the title came and it was like, ooh, I feel like I have a different take than what I've seen, right? I haven't seen many people talking about this thing that feels very much consistent with what I've been thinking about with regards specifically to that slap in masculinity and talks about patriarchy and entertainment and how black men and black bodies don't have the same level of value as black entertainers do is a very different conversation. Once you enter entertainment, you're also really entering the sphere of whiteness. And so having to really unpack all that, I wasn't seeing that conversation because masculinity, especially black masculinity, tends to get drowned out in these kinds of conversations, especially when we start talking about if there's harm that's done to a black woman, and rightfully so. But the black male perspective gets lost very easily in that. And so that's what I wanted to talk to, you know. So for me, it was like that. It's like, what are the things that are like poking at me? And also, what are the things that I really want to poke holes at that I haven't seen other people do? Like, if someone else wrote a memoir that was talking about all the things I'm talking about, then I wouldn't have written this book
Mm.
because you know, like it needs to feel like the angle is sharp enough that it could only be connected to me, you know? Like there's an essay in there, Belly. Belly was inspired by Keith Layman's book Heavy. Like that whole book inspired the one essay. And so for me, it was like, what am I like when I feel the pang of a thing? That's when I know I need to respond to it, you know. And it can't just be I'm excited to write about it. I think that's cool, but I feel like it needs to do with something else. Like there needs to be a, oh wait, there's something here. Like why am I excited about the thing? Not just I'm excited because I know people are gonna read this and it's hot and it's a hot topic. Like I don't want to write about hot topics. I want to write about topics that feel relevant to me and my experience.
A lot of what you just talked about was A, helpful, but B, I kept hearing the words. I kept hearing self-awareness over and over again. A lot of what you just
Yeah.
described is the fact that you're super fucking self-aware. Where did that come from? And I want to go back to. I'll let you answer, and then I want to go back to the 3 minutes ago when you were talking about what you just said, but in the context of social media, because
Yeah.
we need some help there, yo. Like I feel like so many of us are doing it so poorly right now. Again,
Yeah, yeah,
8 months in, 227 days into this fucking genocide, like, I feel like
yeah.
what you just said, we need to be talking about more. But
And I'm gonna get so I'm gonna see now because I got distracted by thinking about the question that I wanted to answer, which is the latter question. What
we'll
was the
go.
first
Go, go, no,
question?
go, go,
Well,
go,
no, tell
go.
me the first question
Well,
I
the
can
first
double
one
down.
was where's that
Oh, the
self-awareness?
self
Not
awareness.
not everybody has
Okay,
that.
so we'll get to the self awareness
Yeah.
because the self awareness is very much there was an interesting conversation I had this weekend with my ex fiance, who's a very dear friend, and you know, we broke up, we were engaged, we were together for 6 years from my ages of 24 to 30, right? And again, I'm 41 now. And there was just a dismantling. There was a dismantling and unmasking. I cheated. There was just a whole lot, you know, like we were just young trying to figure things out. And we both hurt each other in
Mm,
different ways. But the thing that she did that was so special, and granted, it hurt like shit. It was just hard, but it was the dismantling of the mask. And so some of it was harsh, you know. I would, but I think to be fair, looking back at it in hindsight, it was necessary. And so there was such a breaking down, right, of like who I was trying to be, the performer, the cool, the nice guy. There was a lot of nice guy energy that I was putting out into the world and in that relationship. Like I wanted to be liked so desperately, and we break up. And you know, so I'm reading, you know, I'm reading Eckhart Tolle's, you know what I'm saying, the Power of Now, New Earth. I'm reading Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul, Ayana Van Zant's Spirit of a Man, like those four books, and then also to dharmaseed.org. I can't remember how I found Dharma Seed, but all four of those things were really giving me this mindfulness practice. They were helping to ground me in a tradition, and really and like and it's through those readings that I found Buddhism. But like it was small things. It was like a lot of like I was just really interested and curious about my own brain. Therapy, of course, was a big part of that. And so, you know, I started doing little things. Like I would I started brushing my teeth with my left hand. You know, I was always interested in like reading like brain tricks. Like how do we train the brain? So like I was really deep in that world. And then I started doing this thing where I would walk around the neighborhood and I'd be like, yo, today I'm just gonna focus on the color yellow. I get on a train, and so like I would just like yellow jacket or a yellow car or a yellow awning or whatever. Like it was just really sharpening my focus of just the visuals of what I see in the world, so that now like my sensory experience is heightened in that way. Like I feel like I hear everything. I feel like I see everything. Of course, no one can do that, but that all really started with Tiff, and Tiff being like, I remember we'd be crossing the street. She's like, pay attention. I would like, I see it with my daughter. She's la 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 la, life is great. And it's like, yes, life is great, girl. But look across the street, there's a car coming.
Yeah.
It's like, and so even that analogy is really I think the thing that best explains who I am. It's like, oh my God, life is beautiful. There's a car coming. Like there has to be, but seeing and recognizing both does not take me away from this experience. It does in the physical sense, but it doesn't mean I wasn't engaging and embracing that, right? And so when I think about that, when I think about that awareness, I also think about, like, I'll give you an example. It's a thing that I'm not necessarily the most pleased with. And so it made sense initially. There was this whole big uproar about blocking celebrities, right? And
Yep.
I'm all for it. I was like, yes, I'm with it. And then it got to the point where it's like, people are like, yeah, block Nancy Pelosi. Like, you blocking Nancy Pelosi is not, she's not getting ad dollars. That's not where her money comes from. You feel me? Like, there's this broad initiative that we do, and like, yeah, we don't like this person, they're a Zionist. Yes, yes, the tactic we're using for this person is not working. Like
Right.
that's a waste of time. And now we have a whole post about it. And it's like, now if you can boycott APAC in some way, shape, or form, that would be the most appropriate means of like changing the narrative. But it's like we do a thing and then it's like this becomes another kind of group thing. Like we tend to think that only the right does that. Like we do it often where it's like we don't step back and consider, okay, well, really, what is the nuance of this conversation, like looking at it from the perspective of not a devil's advocate even, because I hate that term, but what what is happening here, what is the context of what is happening here, and does it make sense to do this thing right now based on A, B, C, and D? You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there's certain, like when we talk about the whether it's the showing of the Cassie video. I had a good friend of mine, Kimma, told me, asked me to take it down, and I did. Like on my one hand, I'm like, yo, people need to know. There are folks who, not even if they don't believe um those survivors, but it's also too, like, I'm not seeing anyone talking about it. I want to share the video. She's like, it's triggering. And we do the same thing with these Palestinian bodies. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, it got to the point I was like, I just can't see this anymore. And not because I'm ignoring it, because I'm invested in this work, but it's not moving the needle. You know what I'm saying? And like, especially, it's the intention. Cause like, if the person's intention is, you know, I'm going to show you what your humanity is doing. Who are you showing that to? The people who are seeing it, or the people who already care? The people who don't care, I guarantee you, are looking for. They don't. That's like, we've moved past this era of shaming. Shaming worked in the '60s. It worked in the '70s, right? Like, you have pundits who do not give two flying fucks that this behavior is considered shameful, because they don't care about us.
Right.
So there's no shame. Like, you can't shame them. Maybe their wife could, but their wife is like, or their partner or their kids, maybe. But folks are so far down the rabbit hole. Like, COVID is an example of that for me. Like, you weren't gonna shame an anti-vaxxer. Like, it didn't work. They weren't just gonna be like, you know what? You're right. I am maybe harming my community. I am gonna mask up, and I'm gonna no. They just dug deeper in their trenches. They protested harder.
Yep.
You like, if we're paying attention, Nick, then we can see where things are going and how things are working or not working. But then we're just so in it. We're like, nah, I gotta post again. I gotta I gotta phone bank this senator who's receiving $400,000 in APAC. I don't give a fuck if he's calling in. They're not changing their mind. I mean, you got to burn his office down. That's the
Yeah.
that's the
I mean,
answer. I
you
mean,
are
I mean,
not.
I
No.
didn't, I didn't say to do it.
No, we're keeping that in, and he's not saying to do it, but that is what is required. We are far beyond that, right? We saw that recently. We saw that most recently with, quite possibly the most powerful singular individual on the planet, Joe Biden,
Hmm.
who over and over and over and over fucking over said that Rafa was a red line, right? And he had already, which is complete like what the hell? Because you already let them murder and slaughter and
Mhm.
bomb
Mhm.
and starve for months, right? So you're not a good person because you said Rafa's a red line, but he did say Rafa's a red line, and then they started bombing Rafa. And he was like, well, I don't think this is, he just got on and it was some like diplomatic bullshit. And then his buddy Netanyahu was like, I'm disappointed that Biden said that. And then, and then 2 days later,
Yeah.
he's back on
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
yesterday, we saw
Yeah.
that the chief prosecutor, Khan, had applied for those arrest warrants, right? For
Yeah.
Netanyahu and Gallant.
Yeah.
And right away, Biden, the guy who said that Rafa was a red line, steps in line and says, well, this is not a genocide. I don't agree with what they're doing, right? So you're right that like, and that's why I caught on to what you said. And I think we all need like like literally the best thing that could ever happen to us for one day is for social media just like this goes away for a day.
Yeah.
Just goes away for a day so that we can all just like stop for a second and just like breathe and say, uh yeah, 8 months in, 227 days in is how we are using our time. Because you're totally right that like the first few weeks of this genocide, it made sense to post over and over again and to show people what was going on and to say, like, how are you believing this when this is right? All those things that we did, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm not saying it doesn't work now, but I am,
Yeah.
reconsidering it as we're talking, like eight
Yeah.
months in. Everybody that wanted to unfollow me because I have been
Mhm.
posting incessantly, they're gone. So all those
Yeah.
that are like
Yeah.
I might have a few Zionists still like hanging on for dear life. They love me, they've muted me, whatever. But like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like most everybody that disagrees with how I believe about this, they unfollowed me.
Yeah.
They blocked me. They're
Yeah.
trash talking me to their homies in the basement, like whatever. Um, and so it's all people that
Yeah.
agree with me. So my
Yep.
DMs every single day are like people that are putting, the cry face emoji on this post that I, put up.
Yeah.
And it's not anybody saying like every once in a while, yes, if some like troll, the case in point, the one called me out on, but like that's very rare now because it
Yeah.
is it is sort of me preaching to like I have made my enemies and everybody else is like chilling with me, like trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, what is the point? Every second, going back to the beginning of our conversation, every second that we spend posting the same fucking video, the same, and I'm not saying that I'm going to stop or that we should stop or that, but I think
No.
I
No.
think we need to
Yeah.
think about it. Like, is this the best use of my time? Am
Yeah.
like me getting on a mic again and just screaming and yelling about Biden and about Blinken and about all these different motherfuckers that have sided with the devil? Um, what good like and I'm getting myself riled up. Like it's not good for my health, like my brain and my heart. Like I wake up,
Yeah.
Joel, and I'm sure you're in the same boat. Like I wake up thinking about these kids. I go
Yeah.
to sleep thinking about
Yeah.
these men. In the middle of the
Yeah.
day, I'm thinking about these women. And it
Yeah.
just, I mean,
Mhm.
just saying the words 227 days, like 227 days of this, and they're just still going,
Yeah.
they're still going hardcore. Like that is
Yeah.
so heartbreaking. And we have to like, so social media is just this like, I don't know, is that the best, is, is posting over and over and over again the best use of our time? Or, I mean, you said it at the beginning, 2 minutes ago, like Anthony Blinken is not going to listen. We saw Medea Benjamin, who's Code Pink, like
Mhm.
in the hearing today. They're raising the red. I'm not, again, full, like all the power to her and her crew. Like she's amazing, but like three more people got arrested. Anthony Blinken doesn't give one flying fuck. He goes home tonight after being called butcher of Palestinian children
Yeah. Yeah.
on national, international television. He's going to sleep fine tonight because he has already chosen his side. And so posting about it on social media, man, burning his
Yeah.
fucking house down, burning his fucking life down, like
Yeah.
that's what changes
Yeah.
the game. Again, we're not advocating for that, but I am saying, what do we do now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that blinking example is a really great point because what we're talking about is disturbance. Like we have to disturb their peace. Like I love when people show up to Nancy Pelosi's door or a meeting
That's it.
and just disrupt this, because I mean they're disrupting our lives. They're disrupting Palestinian lives. They disrupt like America's built on disruption and devastation. And so I think part of the conversation also is like we just have to be more a bit more tactical, man. Like what I try to treat my stories like what I consider to be like a social market where, or like a kiosk. It's like a college kiosk where you go into my stories. Oh, look, there's a protest happening here. Oh, you can get some beautiful black owned jewelry from this place. Or look, there's some new stuff. Like I want people to feel like they're coming to me because I'm resourceful, because I'm curating the news and information. Sometimes there's some commercial breaks. There might be a little dance video, something that makes me happy. You know what I'm saying? I've been doing a bit more of that now. Because like I was not posting anything that was remotely close to satisfying from like a spirit heart sense for months. It wasn't really up until I want to say maybe about 2 months ago where I started even maybe posting once in a while, like, oh look, here's like a I don't even post a funny meme. Like I do that in my group chats, and I think that's for me. But I think we just have to be a bit more tactical, man, and more strategic. And like, are we sharing information for protesters who are going to be going out, like how to protect your face? Or is this information that's going to help protesters know what to expect or what to be looking for? Or is this information about like there's a town hall happening in Sacramento? I'm not in Sacramento, but I know some of my followers probably are. Or maybe if they're not, they might know someone who is in Sacramento. And so there's this exchange of information. And sometimes the venting is necessary, bro. Like sometimes we need to vent, we need the process, we need to kind of expel all that energy. But I think a lot of us are not strategic about the why. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to keep here's my thing. Like I want us to just continue to put the pressure on people, but like Taylor Swift is not gonna post about the genocide. It's just not gonna happen. And a thing that I've had to work around, and like I think Nick, you and I share this. Like, I have friends in Hollywood, right? And so, I, what the when we're framing this conversation about what people are or aren't doing, right? As a person who is very much on that bandwagon of like, if you're quiet, eat a fucking bag of rotten eggs and dicks together. Like I was
Yep.
all up on that train.
Yep.
And I have friends who, if you're we'll be like, well, if you work in this industry, or if you're working at this job, I mean, I'm a prime, like if you're working at this place, look at you, you're not doing enough. If
Yep.
you
Yep.
can't say what you feel, and it's like where's the mutual aid? Like where's the communal support? If Nick quits his job, are you gonna take care of him and his family? If I quit my job, are you going to do that? We don't have the resources available yet to do that. We don't even know what community is yet. You know what I'm saying? Like we benefit from living in New York, and so like there is like this level of access to physical community where I can, if the same way you were like, yo, we should meet physically, like when are we going to see each other? We can figure that out relatively simple. It's
Yep.
like a relatively simple exercise for us. A lot of people don't have that. And so we can ask people to do these things like, yes, take a stand. But if you work in Hollywood, for some people it's easier, some people it's not. I think some people have a lot more to lose, you know what I'm saying? And that I can reckon with and I can understand. And so leaving room and space for that, um and being cognizant of that. We don't know what everyone is going through, and so there's that. And then also too, being able to hold people accountable. But so much of this is like we use these broad strokes and terms in order to describe a situation and describe people, and again, we're not strategic and tactical enough about the approach,
Right.
or conscientious enough or empathetic enough to recognize, okay, well, maybe this approach doesn't make the most sense based on this scenario. Maybe what this person is sitting with regards to like what they can and can't say is a lot different than like what I can say. Like, I can be a bit more outspoken because of the department I work in. Simple. It's like it's literally just it's that.
Yep.
There are folks who work in the newsroom who cannot do that.
Yep.
This can't. Like they could, but they're not gonna have a job. And so who's gonna support them? We're not. We're
Right.
gonna put up a GoFundMe for them, and that might be like, you know what I'm saying? Like we're not, again, when I think about what we're not thinking about, we think a lot about this thing, but the thing I think about the most, Nick, is not it's not even about the it is about all the destruction, but it's like the after. You know, you have martyred children, you have parents with no kids, you have kids with no parents, kids who are missing limbs, kids who are going to need mental health therapy for the rest of their lives, buildings, universities, libraries gone, memories gone. That's the thing I think about, because
Yeah.
we after this is over, after this occupation is over, because it will be over.
Fuck yeah.
Palestine will be a state in and of itself. There is a rebuilding that will have to happen that is so less about the physical and so much more about the emotional toil that people
100%.
have had to suffer through, and we're not thinking about that at all. Like, we're not even close to understanding what that level of trauma looks like. I don't even think we have a word for it yet. And so that's what I'm thinking about. It's like, we got to be, and we can think about multiple things, but I don't think we're thinking about the right things enough.
We could, man. Okay. I'm gonna bite my tongue for now. Um, we need to find another. I'm not saying you and me, maybe you and me, but like we need to find more spaces that talk about that
Yeah.
because we need to. We got our own shit that we're gonna. I want to go into the next thing real quickly that I want to talk about. Spend a few minutes talking about because I think people need to hear what you have to say and what you and I are gonna kind of go back and forth on regarding what's going to happen here in 6 months. Fewer than 6 months here in the
Hmm.
U.S.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but we need to find spaces to talk about that because that is going to require for us to even begin to imagine holding space for
Hmm.
that and figuring out the mechanisms and the this and the that to like even
Yeah.
try to take care of our Palestinian siblings for the next
Hmm.
several decades.
Yeah.
Again, physical rebuilding and emotional, bodily, mental like rebuilding. Like
Yeah.
we've got our work cut out for us. So let's find
Yeah.
other places and spaces to talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with that
But
for
let's
sure.
talk about fucking does the United States deserve to survive? Do we deserve let's talk about November 4.
Hmm.
Let's talk about lots of our colleagues, lots of our
Yeah.
friends that are
Hmm.
saying
Hmm.
that have looked me in the face and said, "How dare you even think twice about not voting in this
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
election. We
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
save democracy. Imagine
Yeah.
if Trump gets in, what's going to happen? We're going to fall apart." And my answer so far, I mean, I
Yeah.
give multiple answers, but the
Yeah.
I could sum it up in, wait, aren't we already in hell? Like, like I
Yeah.
get it. There
We
might
talked
be
about it.
different
Yeah.
levels of hell,
Hmm.
right? Like Trump
Hmm.
would be a different
Hmm.
level of hell. Like, fuck that guy, fuck his legacy, fuck everything about his family and everything they've ever done. Like, please,
Yes.
God,
Mm.
all the gods, figure out how to erase that man and his horrible family from existence. So
Yes.
yes, that's a different level of hell. But we're in hell, bro. Like we're in
Yeah.
Biden hell, we're in Democrat hell, we're in
Hmm.
white liberal hell. Our brother Malcolm X, who said white liberals, white conservatives, same fucking people. White liberals are
Hmm.
just more deceitful, and I have found that so true. I mean, I found that true as I like the older I get. In the last eight
Yeah.
months, that quote has become so incredibly true. We have
Yeah.
been deceived. We have been
Yeah.
led to believe that these people are on the side of equity and justice and
Hmm. Hmm.
like
Hmm.
we're for everybody and we're for elevating
Yeah.
and we're for this.
Yep.
No, you're not. No, you're
Not at
not.
all.
You're
Not at
literally
all.
supporting fucking genociders. You're literally 8 months in,
Hmm.
like one of the biggest what's his name from Pennsylvania? One of the like what's
Oh
his name?
yeah. John, whatever.
John
That.
Fetterman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
I rooted for that dude when
I
it was
know.
like,
We all did, bro.
Oz, what's his face? Like, I was like so glad that this guy who like didn't give a shit, like, like basketball shorts and oversight. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever, dude, do you? But like, I'm glad you're just like pushing the envelope. And that dude coming out like super strong, like going into protest with his little Israel
Yeah.
flag. So
Yeah, man.
let's talk for a few minutes as we begin to wrap up. Um, what do we do?
I wanted to pull up this Instagram story that Amanda Seals had shared it on her
Oh God,
page
love her.
from
She's just been such a treasure these last few months.
same same Protect Amanda.
Mm,
Um, Ashley Stevens. Also, too, why I say that, like, I can recognize that, like, folks have had problems with Amanda, and I can understand that, but I also, again, I think context,
yep,
nuance. We don't
yep.
leave enough room for that. Ashley Stevens, her the tweet was, people act like if Biden wins, Republicans aren't going to just change it to Project 2030 or Project 2032. Republicans aren't going to stop after failing with one election. My goodness. We see how long they kept pushing to end abortion. Winning the 2024 election isn't enough. She continued on in that thread, and like I read that thread and I was like, this is kind of the summation of what I think people are failing to understand, which is this is a project to this party. And I think we treat each election, the left treats each election like its own separate thing that doesn't
Yep.
feel like a long term strategy for how Republicans are thinking about the world and their place in the world and other people's place in the world that they want to create. Like they're playing a very long game here. And they've been doing this since the fucking 50s
Yep.
realistically. You know what I'm saying? More, I mean, we can look more in like in like the 60s and like how the Democratic and Republican parties changed and shifted and whatever, what have you. But at the end of the day, like when we think about Nixon and like all this energy that he brought in into the White House, it is like this is the plan. This is the plan. And all we're trying to do is just delay. It's like we keep playing defense in this way. Like we're just trying to delay a thing. It's so like we'll just vote for Biden and then we'll get another 4 years of what?
Exactly.
Of what? Like we keep, and so it's not people. It's not about, no. I'm not voting for Trump. I'm definitely not voting for Biden. I'm voting my values. So why would I vote? Just we we would not eschew our values in our relationship, right? And so I have to remind ourselves we are in relationship with each other, even the people we don't like. We're also in relationship with this country, even though if we hate it, even if we don't believe in it, we're here. And
Yep.
so, with that being said, if we're in relationship with that, then we also have to recognize that if things are not going in the ways that we want them to, then things have to change. Voting for Biden is not changing anything. Trump being in office is going to change a hell of a lot in the most scariest of ways. And so, what I would have really rathered is the Democratic Party said, okay, you know what? Look, back to the drawing board. Biden rescinds, right, the presidency, but we don't believe in failure. Again, very patriarchal mindset. Like we don't
Yep.
quit, we don't give up. That's quitting, bruh. Either leave or die. Pick one. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so if he's not going to do that, ideally the Democrats would have been like, Biden, you need to step down. We need to figure out a strategy, and we need to figure out who's going to be the candidate that's going to get us to win this. I I would be shocked if Trump did not win the presidency come November.
Same.
Shocked. Like he was already losing, not Trump, but Biden, the youth vote, right? And
Yep.
so I'm not seeing any real strategy. I'm not seeing the social strategy. The strategy is just like, well, do you want Trump? And it's like this is literally the worst strategy I've seen in my entire life. It's like, well, you want to? Well, listen, he's shooting you, but we'll stab you. So pick your like what? What is? How are we using this as a sane argument, bro? I think the work. I just want to encourage us to get ready for
Yep.
just like pool our resources. Like I think this to me reminds me of pandemic 2020 when because of COVID, and granted this was also happening right in a Trump presidency, but like because of COVID, we have this opportunity to like um really figure out what community looks like, and we're gonna need that now more than ever before. I think even more so than COVID. Like we're gonna have a lot of our marginalized folks, a lot of our binary and non-binary and trans folks who are suffering now. Like when I have friends like in the queer community who are like, but like with Trump, it's gonna be worse. I'm like, where? Like there's gonna be more. Like it's already hard.
Yep.
And so we're trying to avoid the harshness of the reality, the fact that this democracy as it's set up by America is not working and it needs to go.
Yep. And I think it's
Yep.
also important that that's all, I mean, spot on. I completely agree. Additionally, like it is not our fault that
No.
these white, powerful people that have spent their entire careers bamboozling us, it is not our fault that they're giving us, like, this is the choice you have. So they're expecting us. You said, what is their plan? What is their strategy? Well, Trump,
Yeah.
if Trump gets in, I think that's their fucking strategy. And I think
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
because it's worked in years past. It worked in 2020. Like, I did not want to
It
vote
did.
for Biden. Like, we know
Yeah.
what this, like, I think before the pandemic, I would have, not the pandemic, before this genocide, I would have looked at Biden and said, I don't want you to be my president. I think you're a decent person, da 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 da.
Yeah.
But like, I
Yeah.
never wanted him as my president. But we all fell in line and said we cannot have round
Yep.
two of Trump. So not we all. I don't know how you did. I don't want to
No,
presume, but like
no, no, you're
yeah,
presumably correct.
yeah.
That's exactly
I,
what. Yeah,
I
bro.
I
Yeah.
literally went to that ballot box and I hated every moment of like punching that down for Joe Biden or however it
Hmm.
was. I don't remember if it was a button or whatever. But like the point is like that hurt, but it was like that's the right thing to do right here.
Yep. Yep.
So they expect us to simply do that again and to
Hmm.
excuse the fact that like right in front of our faces, they are fucking us over in so many ways, and they're
Hmm.
fucking the Palestinian people, and they are so I think that is their
Yeah.
strategy, and it's a losing one. And I do believe, and I say this with a lot of like I say it was anguish in my heart. Like I do think we're going to get a Trump presidency.
Hmm.
um, and we have to look at each other and look at ourselves in the mirror, both of those things, and say it's not our fault.
Yeah. You're
We
absolutely right
don't.
about that.
We do not have to fall in line. And you said this the other day to me. You're like, dude, the fucking house is on fire. Like, so at a certain point, like if a house is, like if I have a wooden desk, if this wooden desk caught on fire, well, I'm not gonna let the whole apartment burn down. It's like it's one desk. I'm gonna go get water and
Hmm.
the extinguisher, and we're gonna get this thing out. The whole apartment is on fire. The entire thing. Everything's gone. Everything's burned up. And they're saying, no, 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 we can still save it. We can still save it. We can still save it.
Hmm.
And I don't
Yeah.
believe that we can. Like, I think we need
Yeah.
like a day of reckoning needs to happen. And one of the things a friend of mine said the other day, a white liberal that I appreciate their heart and their spirit. What they said was like all these people that you've been fighting for, all these queer folks and women, and black people and brown people and Muslims, like they're all going to suffer under a Trump presidency. And I'm like, this is a revolution, motherfucker. Like so people are going to get hurt, and I hate every moment of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
People that should not be hurt are going to get hurt.
Yep.
But if we vote for Biden again, we are literally putting a little band-aid on a gushing wound. I mean,
Hmm.
it is
Hmm.
blood and guts everywhere. And we're like, oh, look, band-aid so we can get through another day, week, month,
Yeah.
another like
Exactly. Yeah.
we don't have to do this. And we need a
Yeah.
revolution, like an actual fucking revolution. Like, and
Yeah.
we
And
love, we love, I mean, we watch Hunger Games, we watch
hmm.
Star Wars, we watch all
Hmm.
these movies. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who you are,
Yeah.
conservative, liberal, leftist, rightist, it doesn't matter who you are.
Hmm.
You're voting for Katniss Everdeen. You're voting for
Hmm.
this revolutionary that is
Yep.
that is that is killing, murdering the enemy one at a time.
Yeah.
And we watch Star Wars. I mean, they are going up against the Empire, and we're just rooting for them. And then when it
Yeah.
happens in real life, we're like, nope, fall in line, vote
Yeah.
for this white liberal over that white conservative. Like that's the
Yeah.
choice we're getting.
And I think too, to that point, man, and spot on, bro, across the board. I feel like the white right wing liberal thinks that they are the Luke Skywalker in this, and so like that is also the thing. Like Kwame Ture talks about appealing to the heart and mind of the oppressor, but the oppressor has no heart, right? And so
Mm,
I think that's part of it. I think a big issue that I have to remind folks of, and like it's something that I learned a lot from reading Grace Lee Boggs and James Lee Boggs' book around revolution and evolution. This idea that when we compare revolutions, like let's say the Haitian Revolution, or like I'm saying like the trying to think of I'm like if we're thinking of like the Vietnam War, if we're thinking of the Arab Summer, we're thinking of all these things, but in context, they don't work here in America. America is not a homogenous population. We are so different, and
exactly.
in so many ways that is a blessing, and in so many ways, because people cannot easily fall in line, that then becomes difficult when you're talking about honestly overthrowing a government. Like it's a little more difficult to do that, especially when the police force is essentially government owned and state sanctioned, right? Like the NYPD functions as like the arm of the state and the government, as opposed to an arm that is really can be negotiated with in a way that would have them fighting against the
Yep.
government. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a
Yep.
whole lot of, again, the context, the strategy of like, and so like the way we revolt is gonna have to be different. Again, Grace Lee Boggs and James Lee Boggs, they talk about revolution. They talk about rioting. They call rioting revolution, right? They don't call it
Mm.
rioting. They call it, because it's the defacing and destroying the property is very much a middle finger to capitalism and
Yep.
colonialism in and of itself. And so, you get that, and then also too, bro, it's just like, man, that argument from your very well-meaning friend also comes from a white liberal, which makes absolute sense because a white person does not know what suffering looks like in that way. Like, so they're gonna suffer. We're already suffering.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? If you look at all, like, if you look at the repeals and some of the ways that the Biden administration has just dropped the ball across the board, whether it
Yep.
comes down to healthcare, when we're talking about abortion, we're talking about the Supreme Court, we're talking about all these ways in which we're just seeing more and more. I mean, fucking Palestine.
Yep.
Like there's so much to be said for the suffering that's already happening. It's not like people are just living in this free state of bliss. Real quick, like I think about the Civil Rights Act and how it gave myself, right, by my ancestors, the right to vote. It was a
Mm.
right, right? Like I
Mm.
think folks fail to understand, like the women's suffrage movement was about the right to vote, meaning that folks did not have that right prior to, which is wild to think about. And it
Mm.
wasn't freedom; it was just a right. Like we've given you a privilege, a thing that is not even actually a privilege, but we've
Right.
given it to you. You should be happy, and this is what American democracy looks like. It's not freedom. It's never been freedom, and so like that is the work of us, in the trenches, wherever those trenches are, to like change, dismantle, and deconstruct it and reimagine what the future gonna look like as well.
And that's the key right there is not like, cause it can get very heavy to think that like, oh my God, like
Hmm.
what's coming is going to be horrible. And it very
Yeah,
well might be.
yeah,
Is that at some point, like the good will win. I believe that. I believe that.
yeah,
Like I believe that. So like if I didn't believe that, I would not be in this line of work. I would be making a
yeah.
lot of money as a banker or something, like I would just be
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
senseless, 9 to 5 work, just like,
yeah,
and God bless
yeah.
the bankers that are generous and give money away. But like, I don't know what percentage that is. But,
Yeah, yeah,
the point is like, I'm in this line of work because I believe
yeah,
that whatever is to come, this revolution,
yeah,
we're not going to call it rioting, we're going to call it revolution,
yeah,
is that at some point in the process, we get to reimagine what the future looks like. And
yeah.
then we get to make it fucking happen. Right. And
Hmm.
this
Yeah,
might be your kids or even their kids. I don't know how long this
yeah,
takes. It
yeah.
might be well beyond our years. I don't know. I would love to see some of it happening, but who
Word,
knows?
word.
Um, and so the hopeful part is that we get to then build something new.
Yeah, man. Abolition at its best. A beautiful friend of mine, Zola, um, very much an abolitionist, and she reminds me. She's always reminded me of how the abolitionists work is really to reimagine and to have faith and hope in what seems to be impossible. Because that is the goal. Like we have
Yep.
to believe, to your point, Nick. We have to believe in an alternative to what is present, and that is the ending of carceral culture and imprisonment in prisons and jails. It also means too that we are as a community figuring out ways to self govern and moderate and self police, like no more police in the streets.
Yep.
And we're not there yet. And I think some of that is because we are not spending enough time imagining what that looks like and putting community in practice. People. I'm not. I promise, I'm not oversimplifying it, but community and love are really the gateways. A person who has love for land and love for people does not bomb them.
Yep.
Does not desecrate the land. Does not desecrate holy spaces and places. And some people are just done, done in like, listen, I don't advocate for certain kinds of violence. But some people just are not functioning in the ways that are conducive to, like, Netanyahu is not going to change his mind or his heart.
Nope.
He got to go. But like,
Nope.
there's always going to be another Netanyahu, and so like that's the biggest fear for me. Like when I look at Israeli settlers who are stepping on humanitarian aid, the rage I feel
Yep.
and the anger and of like they don't deserve to be here,
Nope.
you know. And so like, but this is all part of, again, the reimagining. What does this reimagining look like? You know, not to say not everyone's going to be hopeful or move in that direction, but enough of us can do and will, and I think that's where the change happens.
I think that's a good place to begin to wrap up. I want to talk. Let's wrap up by giving people some more instructions about your book. Um,
Yeah,
Man, I could talk with you for hours. I feel like
yeah, bro. Same.
to stay in this work for the next few decades, I need to spend more time talking about what we're going to build after
Yeah,
this is fallen apart, because
yeah,
that is, I can get so angry when I just like sit in just
bro. I get it.
the horrific
Yeah.
nature of being alive and then living in this imperialist bullshit, like
Yeah.
false bill of goods country of ours. Like
Mm, mm,
it's
mm.
just so much. But I think if we spend more time, community, love, and imagining what we're gonna build when this thing fucking falls apart, that gives me. I mean, I get excited thinking about that,
Yeah,
because
bro. Like,
I agree with you. It's community, man. We
yeah,
can do, if we just figure out how to come together and truly be with each other and like build together and go deep together. There's nothing we can't do.
nothing, nothing. Nick. And I mentioned Lila, like, about the things she's talented at, like Legos. I've learned so much about reimagining with, like, with my daughter. Like like she doesn't even use the instruction manuals anymore. Like we bought her the Frozen set. She built maybe a part of it. The rest of it was just her. Now she has a whole bunch of these different Lego sets, and she doesn't even build what they're advertising. She's just building a new world because that's what she wants to do. And so I think part of that building is also recognizing, man, we're not going to agree with everything that the builders say and do.
Yes. Yes.
Like, we're not going to agree and align on every single issue and topic. And we treat tension like it's a bad thing. We treat conflict like it's a bad thing. Like, granted, this is not a conflict. This is a genocide. I think we're like folks in the media and folks in government are conflating those things intentionally, of course. But with that being said, it's like, if we're trying to build something new, we're not always going to agree on the floor plan, but we have to be, if we're all building this Frank Lloyd Wright building, then we're going to build the thing. How we get to the apex of that, like, that's different, but the building is the most essential part of this conversation to me. Like, the thing is falling apart already. It is being dismantled. It is dismantling itself.
Yeah.
But I think the rebuilding is like, okay, well, we gotta get our hands together and get a little bit in the dirt and see what we can find.
June 4, Everything and Nothing at Once, a Black Man's Reimagined Soundtrack for the Future. Get the book on June 4 and then the vinyl when it comes out, and listen to the audiobook because you're reading it, right? You're reading the audiobook?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Hell
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Avoid Amazon at all costs, even though the tension there is like when I'm thinking about like a new author, a new book or whatever, I go to Amazon to see how many reviews it has. And
Of
I hate
course.
that, but that is such a staple,
Yeah.
both for bestsellers lists, and also like that's a trusted place to like see whatever.
Yeah.
So if you have
Yeah.
to order it at Amazon, fantastic. But like, yeah, Barnes and Noble, bookshop, right?
Yeah, and
Bookshop.
Bookshop is connected to so many of our local independent booksellers. So, like, if you're in Portland or in the Bronx or in Wyoming, like, if there's a local bookstore that like feels relevant, you probably will be able to find it on
Yeah,
Bookshop.
and all of that will be linked in the show notes. And also go to each one of your local libraries, because you better fucking have a library card and you better be
Word.
visiting your library on a regular basis.
Word.
And
Word.
demand that they get some copies if they don't have
Yeah.
them already.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap up? Anything you want to close on?
Um, I appreciate you, Nick. I love you, Nick. Um, and yeah, man, like, the getting free is a communal struggle and a communal
Yes.
effort. And so like, my mom is 76, man, and there's a certain things my mom is not going to understand, and so there's a level of grace that I have to offer. I think we far far too often, more often than I think is necessary, we look to like cancel people
Yep.
or disparage people based on um rudimentary metrics that don't really have anything to do with the context of the relationships or the nature of the person or the value that the person brings to our lives. And it's like we are not always going to agree. And that doesn't mean that we are standing side by side with Netanyahu. Like this, I'm also asking us to have some level of discernment
Yeah.
about that. So like when a person is like, you know, we don't have to agree with everyone. It's not about agreeing with fucking Tom Cotton. He can jump off a building for all I care. I hope he
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Um, but it's more about folks who maybe have different ways of achieving a goal, right? And working together to find some level of commonality so we can get through this shit together because we're going to need it for these next 4 years.
I love that. I love that. I love you too. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you so much for writing. Thank you so much for recording music. Thank you so much for the work that you put out in the world, both the stuff that you give out for free and the stuff you make money at. You're just a fucking kick-ass person. And I'm so grateful that you came on today.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, fam.